Monsters Assemble! Right, 'cause it's like Avengers. House of Frankenstein begins with a new mad scientist escaping from prison with a new hunchbacked assistant to fill the shoes of Dr. Frankenstein as the man who wants to start switching brains around into different bodies and all that stuff. Taking over a traveling horror show, he conveniently becomes the manager of the remains of Count Dracula, resurrecting him so he can briefly do some vampire stuff before disappearing from the plot entirely. Then they stumble upon the frozen remains of both the Wolfman and Frankenstein's monster, plotting to replace their brains with some townsfolk that put the professor in jail 15 years ago. And then everyone dies. Dracula gets caught out in the open sunlight without his casket, and then he dies. The Wolfman tears out the throat of a gypsy girl who loves him enough to shoot him with a silver bullet, and then they die. The hunchback tries to kill the professor because he's upset about the gypsy girl, so the monster intervenes and throws him out the window, and then he dies. Then the obligatory torch mob chases the monster and the professor into a swamp where they get pulled into some quicksand, and then they die. Everybody dies, McCurdy.
That's true. Everyone does die.
It's a fun movie. This is like
It's
Hamlet.
a fun movie. I enjoyed this.
This is
I enjoyed this.
This is Monsters Assemble. Hamlet. Monsters Assemble.
This is it, the moment we've all been waiting for, the Avengers-style film of this franchise where all the major monsters come together. House of Frankenstein was originally conceived to be titled Chamber of Horrors and was going to be written by our architect of these films, Kurt Sidomak, but he only wrote the story and never actually saw the film. Instead, writer Edward T. Lowe, who penned the script for another Chaney Sr. proto-monster film, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, takes over. This film was originally also going to include not only Frankenstein's monster, Dracula and the Wolfman, but also the mummy Carrol, snorting his 9 Tana leaves, the Invisible Man, and a character that isn't included in this list, the Mad Ghoul. The cast was also going to include Bela Lugosi, Peter Lorre, and Claude Rains. Of course, this didn't happen. I don't know why. I wish it did.
So sad. That is so sad. Peter Lorre's still in this movie, though.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
Sure. When this film went into production, it was titled The Devil's Brood before becoming The House of Frankenstein. Entering the fray of this monster mash is Glenn Strange, who plays the monster, taking over for Lugosi, Chaney, and the OG Karloff, respectively.
Have we seen him before? Did we ever see
He
Strange?
may or may not have been in one of the Mummy films in the background, but I couldn't confirm that because I was like, I don't know which one is Strange. He has a very distinct look, but it's not as distinct as Karloff or any of the other people we've talked about.
Glenn Strange?
Glenn Strange. What a great name, too. But he will take over for the monster for several films after this. So this isn't his only time he gets to play. He gets to play the monster a couple more times. Okay. Karloff did give Strange some pointers on how to perform the monster, and Strange was mostly known for Westerns at the time and didn't even know he was going to play the monster until he had to report to Jack Pierce for makeup. Wow. That's fun. Also in this film, introduces character actor J. Carrol Naish playing the hunchback Daniel. He was known as Hollywood's one-man UN because he could speak many dialects from other countries. Last time I mentioned Robert Lowry playing the second Batman on film. Naish played the first Batman villain on film, Dr. Daka. He was an evil Japanese scientist because the movie was another war propaganda movie. Yay! War propaganda, World War II, woohoo! And then let's get to our returning, of course, Boris effing Karloff, who we haven't seen since The Son of Frankenstein. He apparently did not want to play the monster, but wasn't exactly thrilled to play the mad scientist either.
What did he want?
I don't know. The people on set were like, he didn't seem like he really liked playing the set mad scientist, but he also didn't want to be the monster. I think by this point in his career, he was like over the whole, like, I made all this money off these monster movies, but I want to be, again, like James Whale, I want to be a serious actor. And he's just given all these monster roles.
Because he's really, I mean, he kind of makes the movie for me because we saw him perform, actually do some dialogue acting in The Mummy, of course, but this is the first time that he's kind of unleashed as...
He's an actual character and he drives the whole movie. The whole plot of this movie is this character.
And he's got a great look to him.
One of the world's undead. Dare I but remove this stake from where his heart once beat, and he would rise from the grave within which he lies.
I'm becoming a huge Boris Karloff fan. I was most familiar with him as the voice of the Grinch, the original cartoon Grinch.
Right, that's right.
That's familiar to me, but seeing him and seeing his lith.
Furthermore, my friends, one single ray of sunlight.
I like the way he looks. I like the way he talks. I like this Boris Karloff guy quite a bit. And so, you know, I'm
definitely
glad
check
he's
out
here.
Targets. Yeah, you should definitely check out Targets. It's Peter Bogdanovich's first film.
Okay.
And he was in that, and he kind of plays himself, like a version of himself, as like a washed up horror actor who's going to a screening. Meanwhile, there's this guy on the loose who's like shooting people left and right on the highway, and it's like kind of a crazy movie to be like the first of this guy's movies. Even when you know his filmography, you're like, that's his first movie? You're like, yeah, it is. Okay. It was what's that famous producer who makes all the movies?
Roger Corman?
Right, it was a Corman picture, yeah. John Carradine showing up Chaney's Dracula. I think he owns the role.
Dracula shouldn't be this linebacker. He should
he's
be this skinny,
he's more
gaunt
like a gentleman. Yeah, he's a gentleman who kind of just like, he cucks you. He cucks you at night.
You don't cuck him. He cucks you.
He cucks you.
It's a whole Dracula movie in like 10, 15 minutes.
In like 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's just like, yo, bitch chose me, homie. You know what I'm saying? He goes straight to the gangster and then he's just like, I'm out.
I drink too low. A union to last throughout eternity.
The best man for the job is playing Dracula, freeing up Mr. Lon Chaney Jr. to play the Wolfman again because, frankly, that's where he shines brightest.
Lionel Atwill returns. We toasted to him on Son of Frankenstein, who also appeared in Ghost of Frankenstein and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. George Zucco, who we toasted to the last time, the mummy priest who never dies and returns here as Professor Bruno Lampini. He's with his 9 Tana leaves, just his jaws going everywhere. And then Michael Marks, the dad from the very first Frankenstein movie, comes back again. We last saw him in Ghost of Frankenstein, The Mummy's Hand, and Son of Frankenstein.
Did you get the scientist?
I didn't get the scientist.
Okay, the 2 guys that are kidnapped?
Yes, there's Michael Marks is one of them, and then the other one is the scientist who was in the Mummy's Tomb and the Mummy's the Mummy's Dick, right?
The Mummy's Ghost and the Mummy's Tomb. Frank Reika. Did you already say that?
I didn't, but you're telling me now. So when you go to edit this, you're like, yeah, McCurdy, you forgot this one. Okay. And I'll be like, yeah, I didn't see him on the list, but maybe we'll confirm later after.
I'll just leave all this in.
It's going to be so fun.
Yeah,
people are going to be like,
I'm sure everybody's having a great time. I've got one more thing to say about the returning players. So far, we've done a decent job with it. Sometimes we circle back and we get some people we missed, especially folks in uncredited roles, because everything back then wasn't as well documented as it is now. So I'm sure we'll miss some people. In fact, recently I spotted that the same gaunt-faced, pipe-smoking dart player from The Invisible Man looks just like the gaunt-faced, pipe-smoking dart player from The Invisible Man's Revenge.
Here, you hold it.
But when I try to look him up, it turns out that several of these pub patrons' names are in the uncredited credits of both movies, but almost none of them have any official photos attached to their names. So the information is way too uncertain to put in these videos because it's like if you weren't credited, you didn't exist. So it's just a confused mess. And then as I'm looking that up, I see that Edgar Barrier from Phantom was the radio voice from The Invisible Man.
It takes the form of a delusion that an invisible man is living among them.
So this is all a tangled web of people working together over decades without IMDb, and that's why we mainly focus on the key players. But sometimes someone jumps from uncredited to credited, and it makes it difficult to create a video wall for them because it's harder to find them in their uncredited roles. I introduce to you Olaf Hitton. He's the barkeep in this movie. He had a bit part in The Invisible Man's Revenge, and he was the little girl's dad in Ghost of Frankenstein. But he was also in The Wolfman. However, his role in The Wolfman isn't certain because multiple uncredited people look alike and different sources get their names and faces mixed up. So in the search for Olaf in that movie, I kept coming back to this guy, who most people think is Twiddle, the squeamish guy played by Forrester Harvey from The Invisible Man. But this guy and Twiddle sound nothing alike.
Jenny Williams.
What about her?
She's been murdered, sir.
Oh, I'm a little squeamish, sir. A stick with an horse's head handle.
And they wear different clothing in continuous scenes, and all they have in common is a mustache, so I'm taking a stance now. I'm laying down the law. I think everybody is wrong. I think this scared villager guy is Olaf Hitten, and that knowledge has been lost to the ages, but not anymore, baby. We correct this now, and for all time. So from this day until the end of days, when even Frankenstein's monster has lived his 100 lifetimes, and the immortality of vampires and wolfmen has long faded, you, Olaf Hitten, you shall never be forgotten. So anyway, yeah, he played the bartender.
There's just a lot of people that return, and it's a fun return. So
yeah,
really, the question I land to you is, what was your general thoughts on this movie? Because going in for me, I had low expectations. I was surprised. I went into this thinking this was not going to be as good.
This is what I've always wanted. These movies being 100 years old, by the time you and I were born, they were so plugged into the culture, and not just separately, but as a collective. Right? The Avengers effect had been in effect for decades by the time we came around. So you and I are used to watching other cultural installations where they are all together, be it like Beetleborgs. Beetleborgs even had, you know, a Wolfman
they had
and a
all the
Mummy
monsters
and a Dracula
together, yeah.
and all that, you know.
Yeah.
So like we're used to them all being together, and I like that. Because I appreciate the Avengers effect of having all of these monsters in one storyline.
Monster Squad. Yeah, Monster Squad being another big one. That's another big one, yeah.
Yes, it works for us. And maybe there was a time, you know, back when they were individual properties, nobody really thought about combining them. But when they are combined, it just lends to this atmosphere of horror. And that was something that's been interesting in dissecting this whole series is that every one of these movies in the beginning, it's not like a horror movie as we think of them now, where every square inch of the movie, every second is dedicated to horror. The lighting is always low key and it's mostly dark and pretty much everything's always creepy. Back then, it was like some things were horrific and then you'd cut to like daytime and everything's normal and maybe it's like a couple scenes of romance or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, these movies are very like with all sorts of different genres. It's not just, but I could say the same as the MCU films of today. That is very true. Even though they're all superhero movies, many different ones are under the umbrella of something else entirely. Like you get a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is mostly a straight up science fiction movie. And then you get something like Doctor Strange, and that becomes more of a psychedelic horror film at times. So they're all over the place. Nothing is ever like one dimensional. But these horror films, as we're going through them, we've kind of clocked that. We're like, yeah, this one, like our top of the list, straight up horror films. These are what we want out of these movies. And then some of the middle ones are like, this is a goofball comedy.
Or like Dracula's Daughter, which is, it's like...
It's a romance. It's a romance film.
Yeah. Like I kept saying, it's His Girl Friday. Like this random, it's like, are we watching a horror movie or are we watching a Cary Grant love triangle fun
But
movie?
I don't think, but we've noticed that doesn't make the movie bad necessarily.
No.
But
It's just my point being that back in the day, they were like, well, people don't want to come to something where it's just horribly disturbing from beginning to end. That was maybe at the outset of films. And then at this point, when you go to a horror movie, you do want to be locked into a roller coaster of horror. Like me, if I'm watching a horror movie, I straight up want to be psychologically. That's what I want out of a horror movie. I want to walk out of it scarred for life. That's what I'm looking for because I'm a desensitized idiot after decades of just staring into the abyss. So I don't want to go into a Dracula movie and suddenly have His Girl Friday. I don't want that, you know. But back in the day, it was like you got a little taste of everything. Once you introduce all of these horror characters into one movie, that goes out the window. And yes, we have a little love triangle in this movie, but that's beside the point.
That's
it's
a B plot. Yeah, and it's a B plot
in a horror movie from beginning to end. So when I initially look at the list, or you know, as I'm watching the movie, I'm going, "This is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman on another level," as you would expect, because you're adding more horror characters. You're bringing back Dr. Frankenstein and injecting Dracula. However, I'm sure you'll agree with me. that Dracula being in there for 15 minutes isn't as good as Dracula being in there for 50 minutes, but what are you going to do? Right. Once Dracula went away, I thought, I wonder if this is going to be kind of like an anthological. I think that is a word.
Yeah, like an anthology of stories. Yes.
Here's a 25-minute episode of Dracula. Here's a 25-minute episode of The Wolfman or whatever. And then here's a 25-minute episode of Frankenstein. And that wasn't kind of really the case. It's like kind of,
but it's not. Like, you could cut this up as a TV show and be like, this is the House of Frankenstein, and there's 20-minute episodes, and you would kind of get that. Because, the first half of the film is kind of setting things up and mostly about Dracula. And then after the halfway point, we skip past that. Wolfman's now introduced. We're more focused on the Wolfman plot. And then after the Wolfman, kind of in the midst of the Wolfman plot becoming a thing, even though the Frankenstein monster is the thing, the thread that pulls everything along, where that's the revenge plot. That's what's pulling all these characters along through the whole film. We don't get the Frankenstein monster till the very, very end of the movie, when we get the final, like, everybody's dying, the mob's showing up, all that stuff doesn't happen to the end. So there is kind of like an Act 1 Dracula, Act 2 Wolfman, Act 3 Frankenstein, but they are connected. But I almost feel like you could cut this film up into a TV series of sorts, where it's just like, you get to see all the monsters in each episode.
Or like an old serial. Actually, it was in The Mummy's Ghost that the boyfriend character comes into the whatever office. They're grilling his girlfriend and like, what were you doing last night? And he says,
well, we went to the show.
That phrase always reminds me of my grandpa, because he would always say, oh, you going to the show? And because going to the movie theaters used to be called the show, because you would go in and it was just on a,
it just kept going.
You would go all day.
You'd watch a movie, a cartoon, a newsreel, and then maybe another movie. And that's why you had A movies and B movies. Yeah.
And it would just repeat all day. So you could come into it halfway through the feature, and then you could watch it as it would just repeat through newsreels, cartoons, serials, back to the feature. At some point, you're just like, okay, we've watched enough, and you would leave, and maybe you'd stay there all day because you didn't have TV at home or something like that. But so for Gramps, it was like, oh, the show, because there's just one big show that you just kept watching.
Yeah. But you could see that with this one.
Things. You could see this being like, oh, this serial called, what'd you call it? The Chamber of Horrors.
The Chamber of Horrors
is a serial. And this week, it's Dracula. And it's this 25-minute episode where he seduces a chick, because basically what he's doing is he just came back to life. So he's like, I'm going to get me a new bride. He literally puts a ring on the finger of this woman. Yeah. He's trying to get a new bride. And then a few minutes later, he dies. And then they play a newsreel. And then they play a feature. But anyway, so then the next serial, then you'd come back the next week.
Oh, wait.
The Wolfman is back,
Right. But backing up before then, because we did talk about this, like, again, the thing that's pulling the whole wagon, so to speak, which is also in the movie, pulling the wagon for this whole movie is this Frankenstein thread, where we don't get Frankenstein, but in a meta sense we do, because it's Boris Karloff. So we're like, Boris Karloff is now the scientist, and he's the guy, it's basically the scientist who's out for revenge against the Burgermeister and all the people that screwed him over and put him back in the town.
Let me ask you a question. He comes from Viseria, right? Like this
a different town.
This new scientist.
Let's get the monster to Viseria before further changes make restoration more difficult. The desiccation of the tissues has gone further than I thought.
His house is in Viseria.
You're right. It is Viseria. So he goes to Viseria, but his brother, I guess, also was doing the same thing and also studied under Frankenstein. So we already set up, instead of it being another Frankenstein, and instead of it being like some just random doctor who gets obsessed about Frankenstein, it's a guy who like has some kind of weird connection to the original Frankenstein.
Did you know Frankenstein? No. But my brother who assisted him learned his secrets. Before he died, he passed them on to me. Then you could give me a new body. If I had Frankenstein's records to guide me, I could give you a perfect body.
He says, my brother who assisted Frankenstein. But if he lives in Visaria, it could be...
The one from Ghost.
It could be the original Frankenstein, like Henry Frankenstein, or it could be one of the sons of Frankenstein.
Could be Wolf. It could be... What's the other one? It was Wolf and then
Ludwig.
The other guys. Ludwig, right? It could have been those. We don't know.
Is his brother the rival of Ludwig?
Dr. Bowler.
Is his brother the murderer who is helping original Frankenstein to pillage bodies and grave rob, you know?
Yeah,
like,
if
we
I
don't
went
know.
back and like looked at all the names, someone would probably out there is like, no, it's this guy. That's who it's supposed to be. And you're like, I don't care.
It could be interpreted in several ways.
But basically, the movie is all, instead of, because going into this, you think, oh man, I wish this was just all the monsters fighting each other. And that's not what we get. Instead, we get this, it's not about the monsters, so to speak. It's more about this guy's revenge plot.
All the protection of a traveling show. I as Lampini, you as my assistant. Free to move on towards those for whom I have unloving memories.
The ones who sent you to prison?
Strauss, Ullman, and old Hussman, the burgomaster.
He's trying to get revenge, and he wants to get the book. He wants to continue his studies that Frankenstein did. And so he's like seeking out for this stuff. In the meantime, he's like, I'm going to go out for revenge as well on top of that.
Do you remember why he was locked up in the first place?
I think he says something to the other guy. What does he say? Something about some... Go ahead, tell me.
Okay, so once they escape from prison, they immediately come upon the traveling horror show, and they're inside with Mr. Tannaleaves.
Do you ever exhibit your show in Visaria?
Visaria? No, that's a town that doesn't care for horrors. I had one of their own some 15 years ago when a Dr. Niemann tried to give a dog the mind of a human being. They threw him in prison because he, like Frankenstein, used bodies of the newly dead to carry on his work.
They threw him in prison because he tried to put a human brain in a dog's head. And they were like, fuck, this guy, he's crazy. But that's why he's in jail, because he tried, and that's what he's talking about in the jail, is he's like...
It's taken from the man and transplanted into the skull of the dog. Would give him the mind of a human being.
He's still scheming to put a human brain in a dog's head.
Did you look at all the art, the set decoration in the jail?
There's
like, all
one
the
that
art?
I noticed. What did you notice?
There's a couple of them that are just really basic, and it's just like it was by people who don't even do science. So it's like H plus Cl is HCl.
Yes, no, and the other one was even worse. So right above that is H2O equals H2O. It's like, yes, of course H2O equals H2O.
Like today, the set deck person would be like a much more, like they would give them more time, and they're like, you got to make this look real, and they would go to some. They would go to somebody and be like, okay, make this like making science stuff look legit, but like they're just like quickly write some stuff on the thing so it looks like he's been doing this for a while.
Water equals water.
Water.
It's so funny.
So dumb. But they escape. They escape randomly, and the escape is kind of the first little like I would, a better version of the movie would have had him figuring a way for them to escape, and that's why he's like, if I escape, you have to assist me, and then that would have been his like way to get Daniel to be like, you've got to do everything I say, and I'll get us out of here. But we don't do that. Instead, the lightning just randomly strikes the prison castle.
The prison, yeah. I mean, at least it's at the
like,
opening.
escape.
As you always say, you're like a coincidence.
I can get away
at the
with
beginnings. Fine.
I can get away with it. It's fine. It's like, oh, that's an inciting incident. It's like, okay.
But right away, what they set up is that just like Igor did in Son of Frankenstein, Dr. Niemann is like, I want revenge on past enemies that led to my imprisonment, just like Igor.
Is old Hussman still alive?
He is now the mayor of Regalberg.
Say, who are you?
My name is Lampini.
You're not the Lampini I ran out of this area 3 years ago.
That was my brother, recently deceased.
You remind me of someone I can't quite recall.
Perhaps you will remember later, Herr Burgermaster.
Yeah, perhaps.
Right away, though, you notice, like as I've already kind of hinted at, right away you notice a similarity between the Hunchback, not just the fact that it's another Hunchback that we've seen before, not just how Fritz was a hunchback, but then Igor wasn't a hunchback, but he had a broken neck to where he had that Batman neck, you know, they all do this. Right? But he has a similar speech pattern to a man we've come across only once in this series, but that we both adore.
The lady will be set free the very moment I learn the secret of your transparency.
That we both adore.
Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre. Yeah. So Peter Lorre might as well still be in this movie as who plays the Hunchback?
J. Carrol Naish is the guy who plays Daniel.
I'm Daniel. I'm with Professor Lampini's show. Here, I brought you some tea. It'll make you feel better.
And he's great, but he comes across as slightly impersonating Master. Ooh, hey.
Yeah. I think this version of him is more in line, less in line. It's like less in line with Igor, more in line with the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is just like obvious. The guy who wrote that movie is writing for this movie. And I think they try to make him much more sympathetic. So it's like, it's a different Hunchback. It's not the Igor Fritz Hunchback that we're used to. It's more of like the Notre Dame Hunchback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
They make him more sympathetic and he's not a bad guy.
In Hunchback of Notre Dame, he falls in love with a gypsy girl.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can see the connections there where you're like, oh, okay, they're kind of rewriting that plot into this, which is fine. And I think it really works in this. It's the one extra little piece of plot that this movie adds where I'm like, okay, there's more to this movie than just like, it's not the mummy's ghost or tomb or which whenever it was where they're just killing people left and right and it's just like, oh no, a shadow. There's like a little bit more substance here than we've been used to in the last couple of these movies, which is nice.
So while they're setting up the revenge plot, they also convey the information you need for why the hell Dracula is here, which is that the remains of Dracula from Europe are we're in Europe,
London,
but the remains of Dracula,
not in London, in Transylvania.
I, Lampini, took it. Pardon me, borrowed it. From the cellar of Dracula's castle in the Carpathian Mountains.
Yeah.
Like they found him in Transylvania. This is another universe version of Dracula, essentially. It's not the same one.
Yeah, it's like if Dracula had died back where he came from as he did in the book, rather than dying in London, which they did for simplicity's sake in the first Dracula film. And then Boris Karloff's character, Dr. Neiman's like, oh yeah, and I bet if you remove the stake, he'd come back to life, right? just like everybody knows.
The skeleton of his earthbound spirit might lie at peace within his grave.
Until the withdrawal of the wooden stake from its heart set Dracula free again to satisfy his unholy appetite for blood.
Everyone knows that.
I find it kind of, I don't think I've ever seen that in any vampire movie. But I do kind of find it interesting because a stake, in the sense of a vampire, we know as a stabby piece of wood that you shove through their heart and they die. And then, today that vampire would burst into flames or something like that. They would disintegrate. But a stake outside of that is you stake something down, right? Like you're pitching a tent and you use stakes to hold it to the earth. And then here, those concepts are combined where it's like when you drive that stake through Dracula's heart, it's like holding him down. And then once you remove it, he comes back to life.
Where's another place we've seen stakes before?
Outback Steakhouse?
Do you remember this little ditty?
Is the Jesus?
Stick to the cross.
Yes.
Jesus, you stick to the cross, right? And
yes, he is, yes.
He becomes a holy image when you stick to the cross.
He removes the stake from Dracula. He looks like he's going to go stab the Burgermeister, who is one of the guys he wants revenge against.
Right.
And then once he removes the stake, he's like, wait a second.
He's like, oh,
Do as I ask, and I will serve you. I will protect the earth upon which you lie, so that before sunrise, your coffin will always be ready for you.
For that, I will do whatever you wish.
The Prince of Darkness suddenly is just like, hey.
Hello. Hey, what's up?
What's up, dude? Like,
I think that is the one other, like, that's the next little piece of, like, this is a little lazy and clumsy. As he's like, okay, I'm gonna get you, kill this guy for me. Like that's his plot. He's like, I want you to kill this guy. Well, what is it in for me? And it's like, well, I'll keep your coffin clean or whatever. But also he has the stake like right by his heart, so it's like I don't know, like Dracula would have knocked that out of the way, and
or just done this and like been like, you will step back, like just Jedi mind trick him,
Drop the stick from your hand.
which he did do, but then it didn't work, I guess. It's clumsy.
Drop it.
But if you move, I'll send your soul back to the limbo of eternal waiting.
Then we get our mini Dracula movie within this movie that is actually 10 times better than Son of Dracula. Like, essentially, it's like boil the whole plot of Dracula down to simply this dude steals some other dude's girl, and that's it. It's great.
The abridged version. It's very quick.
Super abridged version of Dracula.
As much as it would have been, as I already said, if he could have stuck around in the plot, that would have been cool. But it is kind of awkward, of course, losing him that quick. But it's like, once he runs off with the wife of the guy, then the hunchback is like, oh, the police are after us. And it's like, okay, they're not. They're after Dracula. Yeah. Which is whatever. Of course, they're paranoid, but it's my point isn't that that's confusing. It's more like it's a convenient thing for the screenwriter where it's like, okay, so they're going to run away as Dracula's running away.
I think they're after Dracula. There's one way to stop them. Yes.
Oh, wait, they're not after us. They're after Dracula. So why don't you push the coffin out and then they'll go after that?
Kind of makes them scumbags. Yeah.
It makes some
scumbags, which is hilarious too, because they're just like, he did the thing I needed him to do. I don't really need him anymore. Goodbye,
Yeah, but at the same time, pushing the coffin out, that should have been enough to make Dracula pull over, because it was two things at once. And this is one of those things where, again, it's like maybe there were different drafts. When they push the coffin out, that's a good move to make if you want Dracula and the police to go away. So that makes sense. But they push the coffin out, and then the pin that's holding the horses to the carriage, that gets yanked out, and then all of a sudden Dracula can't keep driving anyway, right? Which wasn't necessary, because if the sun's coming up and Dracula needs refuge in his coffin, he's going to pull over. And you know what I'm saying? So it's both things at once. You turn into a bat and
fly away. It doesn't make, it's a lot, because that pin thing is a lot. You're right. It's too many things all in once, and it's like, what is going on here? There's a much smoother thing, and we could have kept Dracula in this film where he like leaves the girl and ends up with them or something along those lines.
Dracula should have left the potential bride behind, turned into a bat,
gone into the thing,
flown into the carriage
or
ahead.
Smoke. They set that up in Sun. They were like, obviously he can turn into smoke. They could have done something with that too. But probably the budget for this was like not as big.
But he hadn't been laid in so long that he was willing to die.
I gotta get it in with this chick, dude.
Yeah.
Gotta get it in.
He killed the guy that Neiman wanted dead. He's like, well, I wanted a bride too. I'm Dracula. I need brides.
I mean,
like, Dracula, stop taking brides, dude. It's like...
Yeah, but imagine if they kept him around and then it's like 3 dudes all fighting over the same chick.
There you go. And like, who's she gonna choose?
Dracula, the Wolfman, or the Hunchback?
If the Hunchback thought he was enough, because it's like, oh, the Wolfman, he's so mysterious and dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, then there's also the uber gentlemanly, tall, dark, handsome, gaunt, grotesque, also mysterious and murderous Count Dracula.
And then we could have actually had them fight. Dracula fight the Wolfman at that point.
What is it called when women fall in love with murderers? What is that again?
Is there a scientific name for that?
Hybristophilia. So if you thought that hybristophilia was difficult enough for a normal guy, try being a hunchback going up against 2 of the most dastardly killers that all women fall in love with. A Wolfman, the Wolfman, and Count Dracula. And you're like, but I thought you loved me for who I am on the inside, and she's like, yeah, but you're easy. I want the guy who might murder me by biting my throat. Which one? The vampire or the werewolf?
There's 2 of them.
Either one. I want both of them to murder me at the same time.
Yeah. But we also have to remember, like, this sounds random, but he's also a murderer too, because he killed the professor.
Dude, if Daniel understood women, he would shut his f***ing mouth and he would just kill people in front of her, and then she'd be like, "Oh my God, he's so mysterious."
God, you're hot. Yeah, who is this guy?
Instead, he's like, "You're pretty and I love you," and she's like, "Ugh, get away from me." Like, if you understand women, the worst thing you can do is show that you like them, and there's a reason for that. It's not just to be a dickhead. It's because the moment you say "I like you," the moment you express any interest, their female brain goes, "Oh, if you like me, then that means I'm above you."
The girl, the mission. Kill her. She means nothing to me.
As soon as he's like, "F her, shoot her, I don't care," she's like, "Wait, no, I'm gonna f this guy and make him care."
No guy above me would ever admit to liking me because they don't like me because they're above me. I want the guy who doesn't give a f about me. I want the guy who will murder me. Like, I want the dangerous, mysterious guy who might end my life because he's above me in status because he doesn't give a shit about me. That is how the female brain works. Poor Daniel didn't understand that. He's just like, "I love you." You know, Daniel's.
He's a simp boy,
He's a
simp
simp
boy,
boy.
and yeah. Anyway, so that's the Dracula story in a nutshell, and then it just ends.
Right after that, they pull into
the town of Frankenstein, which is where the movie gets a little confusing because I'm like trying to trace back my steps. I'm like, did Frankenstein meet the Wolfman end in Visaria or Frankenstein? And I don't remember.
They go to Visaria because that's where the only living Dr. Frankenstein was.
Oh, please, won't you tell us where he lives?
There. That's his burial place. The fire destroyed him and all his misdeeds.
He is dead.
Oh, but he can't be.
He didn't die any too soon for us. We all wish that he'd never been born.
And then when they show up, they're like, "Oh, his house is burned down, a la the Ghost of Frankenstein." But either way, they did make a huge geographical mistake in this movie. They mixed up Visaria and the village of Frankenstein. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman ended in Visaria with the ruins of Ludwig Frankenstein's home getting swept away by the waters of the broken dam. But in this movie, when we get to the village of Frankenstein...
Our village has been quiet and peaceful since the dam broke and swept the Wolfman and the Frankenstein monster to their destruction several years ago. No one ever mentions that place. Nor does anyone ever go near it.
They claimed that a dam broke and washed away their castle, which would have been original Frankenstein's castle, that was inherited by Wolf Frankenstein and blown up at the beginning of Ghost of Frankenstein, in the village of Frankenstein, not Visaria. So these ruins they're talking about should be in Visaria, not Frankenstein. So they have it backwards. They should have flipped it so that the movie would open in the Neustadt prison, and then they go to Regalburg for the Dracula bit, and then they would go to Visaria to find Frankie and Larry in the burned down and washed out ruins of Ludwig's castle. Larry would then find Frankenstein's book with the secrets of life and death, and then everybody would travel back to the original village of Frankenstein, where it all began, to run his experiments in the same town that the original Frankenstein lived. But anyway, back to the movie as it is.
They find the Wolfman who's been frozen, and they find the monster that has been frozen. And at least this movie does a huge improvement over the last two movies where we're not dealing with, I want to see him at full power. Instead, he's like, it's the phone with no charge, and we got to charge him back up and fix him up. So then it's like, oh, this makes sense why we're trying to recharge him. He's not moving around. He's just not working completely. So he's trying to revive him because he needs to study him, of course. So that makes sense. In the meantime, we also get more to the revenge plot where he's like, I'm going to kidnap these dudes who wronged me, and then I'm going to like murder them and take their brains and put them in these other monsters to mess with them.
I'm going to give that brain of yours a new home in the skull of the Frankenstein monster. As for you, Strauss, I'm going to give you the brain of the Wolfman, so that all your waking hours will be spent in untold agony, awaiting the full of the moon, which will change you into a werewolf.
Because he's a crazy dude.
Totally.
Which is the most messed up thing. I'm like, I'm going to murder you and take your brain out, and then I'm going to put it in some other thing.
This is the guy who went to prison for putting a human brain in a dog. And it's so like, why would you do that? He's like,
would give him the mind of a human being.
What would that do?
Why? I don't know. It'd be right. I'm like, let's try it out. No, and then we also, so I do love, we kind of glossed over this, but I do love the Hunchback's whole plot is that he's assisting him, but then he meets this gypsy girl when they're in the gypsy camp, and she somehow, I guess she gets attacked and he saves her.
She's being whipped by her pimp, and then he starts to strangle the pimp.
Yeah, so then she doesn't see what he actually looks like.
The way they frame it is that he's standing with the carriage kind of covering his hump.
Right.
As I was saying, he's like, you're so pretty. And she's looking at him like, I kind of like him. He kind of saved me. And then once she's showing interest, you like me? I really like you too. I like you so much. And she's like, ugh. Meanwhile, he jumps in full view and his hump's there. And she's like,
he's like, oh.
You know, if only he would have been smart enough to show her his massive hunchback penis, she could overlook the hump because she would have a different hump in mind.
I can't be on this
But
show
he
anymore.
didn't. But he didn't do
Why?
that.
Why?
I'm just saying, just use what you
Why?
have. Anyway, so
then the Wolfman shows back up.
What's the matter, Daniel? You got bugs? You're not Daniel.
No, Daniel's back with the doctor.
Who are you?
Just the driver.
Are you going to Visalia with us?
Yes.
I promised Daniel I'd keep him company while he drove. I'll talk to you if you want me to.
the Wolfman shows up and he's
he's unfrozen and now he's Larry and he's Larry the cable guy, Larry the Wolfman.
Yeah. So and she's even like,
my name's Alanka. What's yours?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. Do they call you Larry?
They used to.
Do they call you Larry? He's like, bitch, shut up. You know, like Larry used to f around with the Aryan goddess. Like he's just like, whatever, you frumpy gypsy girl. I don't give a shit about you. But and then
I was thinking kind of the same thing. I'm like, you would think they'd get like okay. Here's the thing. Considering the women they've had in these movies up to this point, I'm like, the gypsy girl's she's a little more homely than the other ones we've had. The chick that we had in the Dracula episode of this movie was gorgeous. She was hot. I was like, damn, who is this woman?
But even then, that's not the best that Dracula's had. Dracula's just like, yeah, you're close by. You'll do. You know, like all these guys are coming back to life, just like taking what they can get. You know.
So yeah, then we get this love triangle now with the Wolfman, and then the Hunchback, and then her, and she's like all into the Wolfman. The Wolfman's like, I just want to die.
He doesn't care about her because he's on a mission to die, which then ultimately they once again rewrite. Because as we saw, first Wolfman movie, silver kills you. Not a bullet, but a silver cane kills him. Then in second Wolfman movie,
hold on. They do mention
that.
the bullet. They did mention the bullet in the first film.
A werewolf can be killed only with a silver bullet, or a silver knife, or a stick with a silver handle.
She says it could be by a silver cane or it could be like a silver bullet. She does say that.
Point being, though, that silver kills you. In Wolfman, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, suddenly the Wolfman can't die at all.
I can't die.
Otherwise, he would take a gun with a silver bullet and shoot it into his brain and die.
Right.
He never does that because he's just like, oh, I'm immortal. You need to sap the energy from me, the opposite of what happened to the monster. So that was one of my problems with that movie, where it was like, can you make up your mind? Why is it that, like, Larry shouldn't be alive at all, right? In Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, it's like we find him in the opening where he's in his grave and he's covered in wolfsbane. And so the moment you remove the wolfsbane, he comes back to life, and that messes up with the lore of the Wolfman. Anyway, fast forward to now, and that's thrown out the window now, and now silver can kill you again. And it's like a silver bullet from somebody who loves you.
And a werewolf doesn't just die, he must be killed. Killed by a silver bullet.
Fired by the hand of one who loves him enough to understand.
He must be killed. Killed by a silver bullet.
So I'm glad we're back to that, but it's just like every movie changes the rules. Like, at least they set up the rules, but every movie changing the rules is odd.
Yeah. This one, they set something up.
Now we're back to silver bullets kill you. But don't you see the conflict, though, that he keeps bugging Neiman? He's like, Neiman, you need to prioritize curing me first.
Listen to me, Neiman. You promised that if I found the Frankenstein records, you'd cure me of this curse. I found them, gave them to you. Now it's time for you to keep your part of the bargain.
My boy, you must have patience.
I've waited long enough. Last night I suffered the tortures of the damned. I killed a man. Tonight the moon will be full again. Now you stop whatever you're doing and operate on me, or I swear I'll...
You destroy your only hope of release?
And Neiman's like even says that. He's like, I can't stand being next to Larry anymore.
Is he going to drive all the time?
Yes, I need you here.
Master, why can't I drive part of the time?
But Talbot bothers me with his everlasting impatience.
Hunchback, you're helping me. But the Hunchback's like, no, dude, I'm losing my FaceTime. This is The Bachelor now. I'm losing my FaceTime with the girl because I have to help you.
Yes.
And he's like, I don't give a shit about that.
I want to be driving the car because I want the gypsy girl who's down below to be touching me and smiling at me.
Yeah, and I need your assistance because, and then he's like, but no. And I'm like, I feel for the Hunchback so much.
Neiman is just cock blocking everything.
Can't Dr. Neiman do anything for you? Ask him, Larry, ask him.
Oh, he says that he can, but he keeps putting me off. I don't trust him.
It's many things at once. It's like Neiman just wants everybody to suffer, it appears. Like, he's just like, doesn't want to help anybody out. But then again, this is the guy who thought it was a good idea to put a human's brain in a dog. Like, he's not somebody who should be trusted.
He's like, I want to get revenge. I want to switch brains. That's all I care about. I don't care about you. But I do love that he's complaining about, like, he even says it. He's like, I can't stand Larry. He keeps complaining all the time.
Yeah.
Why must you do that now? You have everything you need here. Operate on me.
I've yet to find a way of combining Frankenstein's technique with my own.
But at the same time, he should be, like, Neiman should be prioritizing Larry. It's as if he wants him out there killing people. It's like Neiman's just fucking with everybody. What reason does he have to not prioritize Larry first? Because Larry is a bit of a liability.
The moon will be full tonight. You know what that means? I can't stand to go through that torture again. I tell you, I can't.
An operation now would be a failure. It would leave you exactly as you are. You must wait.
Hey, dude, there's a full note
moment,
tonight.
yeah.
He might kill you, Neiman. Come on. Like, do Larry first because the monster is docile. Worry about that later. Like, he's on life support. Just worry about that later.
Yeah.
So there isn't really any clear logic as to why Neiman's doing anything he's doing other than he's crazy.
The only thing, he's crazy. That was the only thing I was going to say but he's like, he wants to study the Wolfman. He wants to study the monster. He's like,
that would be interesting if he said that.
Yeah.
If he expressed that, if it was like,
you're right.
Like if Daniel was like, but sir, why not do Larry now? And he's like, I went to watch the Wolfman murder someone, or like have the Wolfman kill. He's like, I need a brain from a skull. I need a new heart, a fresh body. Like if he wanted a dead body, like the Wolfman to kill somebody so that he could harvest some organs or something, that would be cool. But instead, he just arbitrarily is just like, no, Wolfman, you're priority number 2. And then at the last second, he says, tell Talbot I'm ready for him now.
Tell Talbot I'm ready for him.
Like now that he's about to turn into the Wolfman, now I'm ready to cure him. But all he was doing was reviving the monster in a way that had nothing to do with switching brains or whatever. So literally nothing makes sense regarding Neiman's motivations other than he just wants to get revenge and make everyone around him suffer as he does random experiments with a werewolf running around. Like that's the messy stuff. I don't care that much because everybody's crazy and it's all this horrific stuff, and that's what these movies should be. Like I'm just happy to be there in this movie with all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
Versus these other romantic films.
Yeah, there's enough here though that like we talked about the last movie we talked about where I kind of pointed out that like there's not a real true main character or nobody you want to root for. Like there's nothing pulling the wagon. This film at least has that in 2 ways. You've got this nice love triangle that's going on between Larry, the hunchback, and then the gypsy. And then you also have Niedermeyer, or Professor Niedermeyer, whatever his name is. Neiman. Niedermeyer from Animal House. Animal House?
Boris.
House of Frankenstein?
That's right there, right there. That's it, Boris. Like you gotta protrude, you're protruding your lip so that your tongue doesn't stick out like that, like pure lisp, but like this Boris's lip protrudes so that when his lip
just
hits,
a little bit.
It's like he's insecure about his lisp, so he protrudes his lips to cover his lisp.
Anyway,
Boris Karloff.
You have at least a main character with Boris kind of driving being the driving force of the whole film. And I think that stuff helps the movie a lot, where the only the things I don't like about the end is, one, the monster comes back and then he dies.
And then he dies.
But I do love, I didn't mention this in the trivia, but this is actually a pretty funny note, is that there's the part where Glenn Strange has to pick up Naish and throw him in that part of the movie.
Yeah.
Apparently he was supposed to throw him on a mat and he missed the mat and he hit the concrete. But luckily, because he's wearing the outfit with the hunchback on it, it was enough padding that he was okay.
Funny. Kind of like that chick falling on the papier mâché rocks.
Papier mâché rocks. I thought they were papier mâché.
Yeah.
But yes, I just, and the other bit was the end where you're like, were people obsessed with quicksand at the outset? Because it's like the last movie
ended the same way. Yeah.
And then we also had Dracula where we were in the swamp. So for some reason, I guess Universal was like, yeah, quicksand. It's the new thing. It's the hot death. It's quicksand.
But when the mummy girl went down, it was like, it just looked like a pond. It didn't look like a quicksand bog. It just looked like a pond where it was like, dude, just go out there and grab her. That was what I was saying last episode, where it was like, dude, like that's your wife that's your hot ass wife to be. Just like go grab her hand. But everybody's like, nah, go home. And what we were talking about, where it's like 25 minutes of Dracula, 25 minutes of Wolfman, 25 minutes of Frankenstein. We don't get that. We would have that if you fan edited it out. But you finish up the Wolfman, and then the movie ends 5 minutes later, with Frankenstein's monster just being like, I don't know what to do. And I do like the ending.
Don't go this way! Quicksand! Quicksand! Not this way!
And I like that everybody's just dying left and right, but it's short-lived. It's just like chase him off into the bog, and they sink under. And I mean, the final image being Boris being like, oh.
He's like, he dies from his own hand, essentially. Like, he's like, you brought the monster back. This is all kind of your fault in a way. Yeah. But also there's also a meta sense there, because it's like, this is the last time we see him in any of these movies. And
is it really?
Looks right. He's not in anything after this. This is the last one he's in.
Too bad.
So he looks into the eyes of Glenn Strange, and it's like this very meta thing. And you also have to think that, like, Karloff, I said he gave him pointers. You have to think that, like, you see it because Strange is doing a better job of Lugosi, better job than Chaney. Yeah. He's like, you could see that he's like, don't do this. You got to move differently. You can see that there's a little bit of like it's just a kind of meta movie where it's like he's looking at his self, and they're both dying at the same time. So it's like, this is the last time we're going to see Karloff as the monster, but he's not the monster, but he is the monster of this film because he's the bad guy, but he's also the protagonist. And it's not tragic. Yeah. But it's also fun because everyone dies. And I love the hunchback gets thrown. Everybody dies.
Which, by the way, why did, do you know why Bella didn't return? Did it have anything to do with Karloff?
I don't know, and I would love to know because it's interesting to me. Because like I wonder if that had something to do with it. Because I know
because you just said Bella being horrible at the monster is a complicated statement because it's not necessarily his fault. How it was like his awkwardness. There was an intent behind it.
He was originally basically playing Igor as the monster, and so that made sense. But then they took all that stuff out. So then that's kind of like you're left
he
to
looks
like wait.
Really bad at it, unfortunately. So that's the thing is that like I'm curious if he was just like F you. I'm not f***ing coming with Karloff.
You know which movie of yours I love, Mr. Lugosi? The Invisible Ray. You were great as Karloff's sidekick.
Karloff? Sidekick? F*** you! Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit. That limey cocksucker can rot in hell for all I care.
But I don't know if that's the case. But the thing is like they worked together in several other movies prior to this movie, like multiple films. Even outside this list, there were other Universal horror films. I'm
curious
like
if Bella was insecure about his performance from Ghost, which again was not his fault, but made him look bad, and that maybe that's why he would be I don't want to come back.
Not Ghost. It was not Ghost. It's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman because Chaney plays him in Ghost.
Right. Sorry, you're correct. Yeah.
You're right.
Yes, you
but
are correct.
That being said, it's like you do wonder. It's like, why did they not get Lugosi back? There's two things I think of. The two reasons they may have not. One, there could have been some behind the scenes thing that you suggested between him and Karloff. The other reason I think maybe makes more sense to me, and I don't have anything to verify this at all, but this is just my theory, is that Lugosi at this time is looking a little bit older, because even when you look him at the last Frankenstein film, he's not this charming. I mean, he's wearing makeup, but he's not the same looking guy.
You're talking
guy
about him if he would have come back as Dracula.
As Dracula, exactly.
Okay. I'm talking about coming back as the monster.
The monster. But I feel like if they're gonna bring back Dracula, if they're gonna do Dracula again, bring back Lugosi. Why aren't we doing that? I think the reason is because he just probably maybe gained some weight. He's a little bit older. He's about 10 years older at this point. And this is Hollywood 1940s where people aren't really concerned. And I've said this multiple times, but no one's concerned about their health as much as they are today.
Yeah.
Whereas back then it was like everyone's smoking, everyone's drinking. No one's really caring that much. You can get thrown out by, you can be making movies today, and then the next day they're like, the next hot thing, you come in, you're done.
Well, we've seen that in this series
multiple times.
Get that new hot babe.
Right, but even for men, it's like you get the men that come in, and then they usually play maybe the old guy, but they're not going to play the star forever or the leading man type. So I could see it being that they were like, Carradine makes more sense for the story for this movie, and it kind of does because he does have a better look for this. Unfortunately, I do wish that's when I'm watching this, I'm like, oh man. Wouldn't have been even better if Lugosi had played the vampire, because then it would have been, or Dracula. It would have been like,
Lugosi could have been Dracula. He could have been the monster. He could have been Daniel.
Yeah, I think it would have been great if they had gotten the Dreamcast. I don't know if there was one, but yeah, if the Hunchback was
the
Laurie,
Dreamcast didn't come out until like 2001. Horrible joke. Me. That one scene where the gypsy girl comes in and she's just like, hey, Daniel.
Larry! Daniel, you frightened me. Have you seen Larry? What's the matter? Don't you like Larry?
You used to smile at me sometimes before he joined us.
Why, Daniel, I believe you're jealous.
You love him, don't you?
He's in some kind of trouble, I think. I want to help him.
You do love him.
And I happened to pause the movie at that just randomly, and her face is like this, and his face is like this. I'm just cracking up to myself because he's like, bitch, he's a werewolf. Like, would you cut it out?
He's a werewolf.
Oh no, not him, not Larry. You're lying! You're lying to me!
No, I'm trying to protect you. Stay away from him. When the moon is full again, he'll turn. And he'll kill. He'll kill.
I don't believe you. You're making it all up. Because you're jealous. I hate you. You're mean. And you're ugly. I hate you!
Yeah, what are you doing?
And it's just like he's going through what every one of us guys go through, which is like, oh, love sucks and is bullshit. And like, end of the day, what do women want? Women want what they can't have. She can easily have this hunchback who will love and protect her and take care of her, but she's not interested because she needs her hypergamous nature requires somebody above her, and she wants the violent, satanic animal who's going to destroy her. Like, how many of us good guys have watched women throw themselves at the monsters?
Yeah.
It's so perfect.
So one thing in this movie, it is the one thing in this movie that is like, I empathize so heavily with this movie because it's just like you feel so bad, like he's a murderer, but you're like, oh god, I was that guy in high school multiple times. It's like you're like, I love this chick, or I have a crush on this girl, and then it's like, oh no, she has a truck on Chad.
I'll write her poetry, and then she's like, you really like me, don't you? Yeah, I do. I don't like you. Immediately, I don't like you.
I don't like you.
I want nothing to do with you. And then it's like, for men and women, it's the same thing. It's like, who I want doesn't want me, and who I don't want wants me.
That's exactly this movie. But that's the core of this film.
It's everything we talked about in the Dracula episode, except this time the girl isn't rescued from the monster, she's destroyed by him. And I repeat my words from back then, this is precisely why fathers used to choose their daughters' husbands, because women tend towards the Beauty and the Beast fantasy of taming the bad boy, and it rarely, if ever, works.
I want to help you. I'll do anything.
Why? Because if the beast is ever tamed, then he is no longer a beast, as he loses the very thing that attracted her in the first place. And he ends up being just another Daniel, something she knows she can have easily, which kills the desire because, again, what do women want? They want what they can't have, because the emotionality of that desire is always more pleasurable than what reality actually delivers.
After a time, you may find that having is not so pleasing a thing after all as wanting. It is not logical, but it is often true.
And for men and women alike, once we get what we want, we still want the next best thing. Meanwhile, the secret of contentment is in knowing how to enjoy what you have.
I will say, I think that part of the movie elevates it a lot, being outside of the other horror films that we've talked about in this list.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have been dying for a movie that could split up the Draculas and Dracula's daughter. I think at the very least, this should beat out Dracula's daughter. At the least. I think my bottom would be above Dracula's daughter. Even for just what we just said, where
That's
it's like
bottom?
a romance story, my bottom would be above Dracula's daughter.
What's your highest though? Because for me, my
tough.
highest is above Dracula's daughter.
Highest is above Dracula's daughter?
Yeah, that's for me.
Okay.
Like my lowest is above Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman.
That would be my lowest.
Definitely outshine. Yeah.
Or no,
definitely
that's
shines
the opposite of what I just said. I think the lowest I could see it is yes, right there, above Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, because it does everything Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman does. But I just, all of the, like the reason why we put Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, awkward title to say every time, FMTWM, the reason why we put that movie where it is because it's flawed, but it's like we're here for these horror movies. And that's that's one of these movies on the bottom part of the list that delivers on the horror. This one is flawed as well. As we said, it's like episodic kind of rough, but it's all this good stuff wrapped up in a loose plot that doesn't leave you wanting more. It is kind of complete, even though it's not exactly perfect. But that bringing those horror elements certainly elevates it above the romantic comedy that Dracula's daughter becomes at times. Like Dracula's daughter has this love triangle. This has a love triangle that's more appropriate to this series.
Yeah. Well, so there are two things, right? Like one, the love triangle in the Dracula's daughter film is interesting.
Why have you left her unharmed?
It's the only way I can be sure of Garth.
What do you want of Garth? Release? Still release?
No, I know that's impossible now. I want him.
What do you mean?
His life in exchange for hers.
The one thing I always lean back on Dracula's daughter for me has always been, it's a story about someone trying to find redemption and then having to succumb to their sins anyway. They're trying to ask for redemption. They're doing all these things. They think they found the savior that can basically get them out of this. But then eventually the devil on their back, which is Mr. Dark Shadows, evil bats, is the guy who just drags them back down into like, no, you're a vampire. You be a vampire. But that being said, the other part of it is
Daniel, you're a good guy, but I need an evil boyfriend.
This story is about Daniel. This movie is, if we actually had the real title, it would be about the hunchback, if anything. Like he's kind of one of the main characters in the story. He's not the main character, but he's like one of the driving story points in this movie. So it is more his story, and that's where that love triangle B plot comes in.
Yeah.
So it's like, but that
like you said, very sympathetic character. This guy going through,
because it's a revenge movie and it's a love triangle movie at the same time. We get this really cool, kind of cool revenge. Like it's not as well played out as you'd wish. Like you kind of do wish the Chamber of Horrors was like he was a little more of a mastermind and was like I bested Dracula, I bested the Wolfman, I bested Frankenstein, and now I'm using them to do all these horrible things. I have the mummy, and I'm going to use the Tana leaves to go kill these guys.
There's some unsqueezed fruit there,
right. Like I brought you, like, the modern version of this movie would have been like and I think they were trying to do this with the Mummy film with Tom Cruise, was that some dude was going to bring all of these monsters together to to enact his evil revenge on all the people that has wronged him. And then it would have been like...
Even the brains he harvests from these guys that he's getting revenge on, what happens with that? The idea
he was going
was
to put him in the monster
Talbot,
and then the Wolfman. Yeah.
That's
And then
the idea,
the Hunchback
and
was like, I want to be in Talbot, so then she'll love me. And then he's like,
because I want to be
no, you're
big
going to
and
go
strong.
into this dude.
Yeah,
he was like, no, I have other things to do with him.
Now that I've helped you with Strauss and Ullman, will you give Talbot's body to me?
What?
He's big, he's strong.
Talbot's body is the perfect home for the monster's brain, which I will add to and subtract from in my experiments.
Master, you made me a promise.
No. You think I'd wreck the work of a lifetime because you're in love with a gypsy girl?
I've killed 4 men for you.
Do as I say or I'll never help you.
Yeah, that's not happening, buddy. Sorry. And he's like, but you said you'd cure me. And he's like, I will, but just not that. He's like, oh.
To answer your question, though, I think my highest could be above Son of Frankenstein. Because Son of Frankenstein ain't perfect. I really like that movie. And this movie isn't perfect either, but that movie drags in its third act. Where this movie, the third act is where a lot of things are coming to a head, even if it's rough. But they're both rough. Like, both movies are rough. So my highest would be there.
Yeah, I'm not there with you. I think Son is overall a better movie. Like, even if it does have that weird draggy point towards the end of it, I think it still has better themes and it has better story that it's just that it unveils. And it's not as clunky overall, because it's like, it's clunky, but it's not as like,
the
hey,
Dracula
episodic,
thing
we're starting with Dracula this and that.
The Dracula thing is just
we
like,
don't have that here.
Why is that
so
here?
That's
you could get rid of
and
Dracula.
That's the same, yesterday you're like, that's the same with the Mummy and the Werewolf of London. I'm like, if that's the case for me, it's also below the Dracula movies in that regards, because I'm like, the Dracula movies are also like, don't have all these weird hanging chads. They are fully fleshed out stories, both of them, because it's the same movie. So that's where I would agree with you in putting it above Dracula's Daughter. I'm a little hesitant there because I'm like, I think Dracula's Daughter's also a much more complete movie, but at the same time, I am kind of more, I'm like, yeah, but it's also more of a horror film, because we get Wolfman, we get the monster, we get Dracula. We also get a better like Dracula, because it's like we're condensing all of the Dracula into just one little bit, and we get a little taste of the Dracula appetizer, a little main course of the Wolfman, and a little dessert of the monster at the end. So I'm agreeing with you with I could see it above Dracula's Daughter. I could buy that. Because I'm already above, for me, it's like, it's already above The Invisible Agent, because The Invisible Agent's just a war propaganda movie. This one's like an actual horror film that we want to see. Yeah. So that's where I'm like, I could succumb to being like, I could succumb to it.
The one that you described at the outset, would be very high up, where you had everybody, and it truly was the Avengers of this series. That
even
would
meta, like on the meta sense, on the casting and within the story. Like you had all the monsters, you had all the actors playing those monsters coming back, just like they do in the Avengers films. That would be really cool to have Claude Rains coming back as the Invisible Man, making some kind of weird cameo. You could still do Karras the Mummy Karras, but like make George Zuko come back as the stupid guy who doesn't die with his 9 Tana leaves. Like you could have tied all that stuff in there.
Dr. Neiman's like, hey, Daniel, pass me that brain. Daniel's like, I'm busy, sir, doing this other thing. And he's like, all right, Invisible Man, pass me that brain. And then the jar just floats over there. Floats over to him.
Yeah.
It's just
like I love the idea. I still love the idea of like the future like the modern version of this movie. We still have the guy, the scientist who's gonna do all these terrible things. He's going across country, gonna murder all these people, and he's gonna use but he's like picking up all the monsters doing so, but also like blackmails them into using them. Yeah. Like, imagine he blackmailed, he's like, I have the duocane, but I have the cure for your, it's like, I have the cure for your invisibility that you've been trying to solve for all these years. Yep. Or like, I went to London and stole the Mummy Karras from the sarcophagus, and I have the 9 Tana leaves. Like, I found that out in Egypt, and now I'm here, and now I'm gonna use the mummy.
Finally give him over 9. He'd give him over 9 leaves to just wipe out the entire village of Frankenstein. Just go kill everybody in Frankenstein. Like, dude, Okay, you know how every single one of these movies has a torch mob? The torch mob is descending upon the laboratory, so he gives Karis 9,000 Tana leaves, and then he goes out and just murders the whole torch mob.
Oh my god! Dude, this movie's awesome. I want to see this version.
Amazing.
Because he's still trying to get the monster working. The monster's not set up yet, and then the 9 tail. And then in the midst of this, in like our version of the story, like the Wolfman and Dracula are actually fighting instead, so that would be cool. Yep. Like he's trying to get the monster thing and like they're fighting, and then the Invisible Man is like there too, and like he's trying to get his cure, but he's like dying. I don't know. Dude, it would get nuts. It would be so nuts.
Sadly though, because we didn't get this back then, and because as of right now, the dark universe is still shut down, we are left at the mercy of AI to one day give us the ultimate Universal Classic Monsters horror movie where they all assemble.
Like an actual
monsters.
Yes,
assemble!
That would be so amazing. I would enjoy that.
Quick story. After over 10 years of waiting for, every Avengers movie, they would tease that they were going to say Avengers Assemble, but they never did.
Avengers!
Yeah.
They waited until everybody was assembled at the end of Endgame.
Assemble.
And it's like this huge deal, like years in the making.
Yeah. Everybody shows up.
I went and saw it with this chica who he says, assemble. And she turns to me and she goes, Istanbul? And I was like, I was like, get out. Like, you just fucking ruined Endgame. Get out. Go away.
Istanbul?
Did he just say Istanbul? I was like, get the out of here.
Oh my God.
We're done. We're done.
Istanbul!
She was hot, but retarded. So what are you going to do? I told her to go back to Texas and get knocked up. That was exactly what I said to her before I never saw her again.
She ended up in Lithuania.
What's in Lithuania? A whorehouse?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
She just ended up there because she's dumb.
Yeah. She is in retard land. Anyway, I'm for that. I am all about this movie being, like you just said, this movie going into it, expecting it to be terrible, and then being like, I kind of like this.
Once I get over, like, it's a clunky movie. It's not perfect. There are other movies I think lower on the list that are a little bit more streamlined, but because of the horror elements and because of the hunchback story and because it's a revenge story, kind of helps elevate the rest of the movie. And Karloff helps a lot of the movie be good.
Yeah.
Those like things help rise it up a little bit above that. So that's where I'm like, I will agree with you. Like they're coming in, I'm like, I don't know if this is Pete's Dracula's daughter, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is more of what you want out of these movies than Dracula's daughter is. But I don't think it's as good as like the Dracula films and everything else above it. It's
like all those are like the Aces classics, Right. Like, if a movie's going to go above Dracula, it better be rock solid. Dracula's Daughter is classy. It's like the performance movie. It's like that movie at the Oscars that's like praiseworthy because the acting is on point, but nobody really remembers the movie beyond the year that it came out. That's where I agree with everything you just said. I'm just like, number 9, below Spanish Dracula, above
I'm there. I'm like, I'm not going to fight that because I'm like, I'm kind of like, like I've many times we've wanted to put it above movies above Dracula's Daughter, but I'm like, no, still better movie. This one's like, you get the horror pass because you're like, this is more of a horror film.
Yeah. It took the first
in a good way
Avengers horror movie to defeat the movie below the Dr. No equivalent.
Yeah.
The Dracula threshold is still very difficult to surpass, but the movie just below it, Dracula's Daughter, falls down a notch. So cool.
Yeah.
Locking it in. House of Frankenstein, number 9. Below Spanish Dracula, above Dracula's Daughter at number 10. Excellent.
Dracula's in those 4 films too. So we get Dracula, Little Dracula, and some Dracula.
That's true.
They're still in there.
That little nugget, that little nugget you get in House of Frankenstein.
15 minutes of Dracula is pretty good. Yeah. Than Son of Dracula. Jeez.
Better, a lot better than Son, and just a little bit better than Dracula's daughter. Who are we toasting to?
There's only really one person I think stands out because we've toasted to many of these people. We've already toasted to Karloff and Cheney and I don't know if we have not toasted to Carradine yet.
There isn't a random really hot chick to toast to.
We've toasted Lionel Atwell. We toasted to George Zucco. We never toasted to Marx, but I think the one that stands out to me is J. Carrol Naish, who plays the hunchback in this film.
Totally.
It's his character and story that kind of helps elevate the whole movie, like past with Karloff on the other half of it. It's because he has this really interesting love triangle and all of that. That's the stuff that's like, I empathize with this. Yeah, sympathize with them.
A story that all of us gentlemen can relate
to.
It's
Yes.
like, why don't you like me? I'm good to you. Oh, because women are counterintuitive.
Right.
Oh, once you come to understand women, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But you got to go through it, Mr. Hunchback. You got to go through it. You got to go through the pain of understanding the counterintuitive nature of women to then come out on the other side where you can someday, you should be like Dracula without being evil. You should be like the Wolfman without being evil. You should be like James Bond, who is a bad boy who isn't evil. So that's the lesson there. But the Hunchback, if he would have murdered somebody in front of the gypsy girl, he would have gotten laid. Boom, he would have gotten laid. She would have been like, oh my God, he is capable of danger. I just love watching him murder people. Like, oh, women are retarded. Like they are retarded. They do want you to be a fucking asshole. And then your mom and your sisters are like, no, you just say nice things to her and she'll love you. And you're like, later you're like, oh, it's because my mom doesn't want to fuck me and my sisters don't want to fuck me. So they idealize me. Meanwhile, women who aren't related to you are like, oh, if you're nice, I want nothing to do with you because you're incapable. You appear, not that you are, but you appear incapable of doing things. So when I see you out there commanding troops and murdering people, it's like, oh, he is capable. Now I'm wet. And it makes sense. Okay. Of course women are like that. Of course they are. Of course they're hyper-selective.
So
anyway,
we're toasting to J. Carrol Naish.
J. Carrol Naish. He brought something unexpected to this for sure. Again, the idea that they would take Fritz from all the way back in Frankenstein. You know, so you have this guy who is a Frankenstein enthusiast who wants to be Frankenstein, and then he, in prison, buddies up with an assistant who is also hunchbacked, and then that combines the Hunchback of Notre Dame story. Like I did not expect that, as you've been saying. It certainly makes the movie and really carried the movie from A to Z. So to J. Carrol Naish. To you, sir. A happy Halloween.
Sir. Happy Halloween.
To your remains, wherever they are. Cheers. I'd love to hear say the word earwax.
Michael Caine.
Take one guess. Who do you think I would love to hear say earwax?
I did. I said, Boris Karloff.
Yeah, who did you think before I said earwax?
Michael Caine.